Thanks to all the new subscribers and comments. It's been great. Last round, I was super stoked to hear from everybody. And so this goes out specifically to one of those Explore Your Dream Life. They were talking about honest inventory and were asking about how to utilize it and some examples. And so you should check out their channel, Explore Your Dream Life. I think it's at Explore Your Dream Life, one word, on YouTube. It's a really cool channel actually, and I subscribed with my personal account and I checked out some of their vids and liked them. They're super cool stuff. And so dream interpretation is a big thing in the Torah too, and it has a lot of implications. And we'll maybe do a video on that at some point. But they have a really cool channel, so I wanted to big them up. And they asked for honest inventory, so I wanted to give them my example. I wanted to make this video anyway, and so I wanted to first shout them out for the great comment, and we had a nice little conversation about it, but show my honest inventory. I think honest inventory is such a crucial thing for everyone to go through. Writing it down is a great thing. Kind of helps you put it down on paper and see it for yourself. And it helps us just be super honest with ourselves, the good and the bad, right? Because we're all have good and bad in us, and sometimes things can be both, and which I'm going to explain right now. So I wrote down one on paper. I wish I had time for more graphics. I don't know if everyone can see it. I'm going to put it up there like that so you kind of get a view of it. And so for the first good trait, I put charitable. Probably my greatest strength is I'm not very materialistically driven, so I like to give things away. I'm big on charity. I think tzedakah is the greatest of all things we can do. It's one of the three pillars of Judaism, but I think it works miracles. I've been so blessed in my life that so many things work out in my favor. And I really believe it's because of charity. It's always seems to help me in the darkest times. I have some great stories. We'll do a video just about tzedakah, they say with the Yiddish, and how important it is. But that's something that means a lot to me and something I think I'm strong in. So I put that at the top. On the counter of it, my weakest thing by far, and I've had girlfriends as like dating in the beginning be like, oh, you seem perfect, what is your big fault? When I get mad, I say the most horrible things. Like I'll be in an argument with a girl and like things I just know will hurt them. It's that there's even been times, especially when I was younger, where I would just lie. I knew it would like hurt them the most. My tongue is a double-edged sword. I learned that very young, and I still struggle with it. That like I can say all these blessings and great things, and when I was young, especially and angry, I could say horrible things, just things I just knew would hurt them, and I would say it anyway. And I knew, and there would be times where I'd be like, "Don't do that," and I would still say it and to hurt them. And so I apologize again. I've already apologized a million times for all this stuff to anyone I've ever hurt with my tongue, because for every blessing, I'm sure I've thrown a barb at some point, and it can be maybe not to that extreme, but I definitely have said more than enough barbs with my tongue, and it's something that I will always have to reconcile with my Creator. So if charity is my strongest thing, my weakest is when I get mad, I get that barbed tongue, and it's a horrible thing. And I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older, but it still creeps up. When I was young, it was bad. And so, but I have a kind heart. I really don't want to see suffering in this world, so I do have a kind heart, but I have a temper. And the counter on that other end is like temper. That's the bad side. And I definitely used to lose my temper a lot. I was an angry little kid. I could have a million excuses. I didn't know my real dad. But we could come up with excuses, but I'm just angry kid with a bad temper when I was younger. So, and still, I gotten it more under control, but I have my moments. And, we're all human. And I've gotten a lot better, though, from when I was young at all these things. And it's through honest inventory, by acknowledging where I'm weak and saying, damn, that sucks. Like, I want to change that about myself. That's how I was able to work on it. And have I reached perfection? No, not by any means. Am I a lot better than I was? Definitely so. So that's kind of the beauty of honest inventory lists. I don't like suffering in the world. That's my biggest beef with the world in general. Is suffering, I think, sucks. I don't wish suffering on anyone. That's one thing I think also the creators always love me and bless me, is that genuinely from the depths of my soul, I don't want people to suffer. Anyone. It sucks. I'm just not for it. So I don't like it, and I don't want it to happen to anyone. So that's the strength. My weakness, I cuss a lot. I don't know. I had this whole thing that the Queen of England made cuss words bad just to put down poor people. So I don't care. I'm going to cuss. But now as a father and my little kid, I hear her cussing sometimes, and I'm telling her, it's not ladylike, and I shouldn't. It's made me really want to stop cussing. And sometimes it's hilarious when you hear a little kid cuss, but it's not good. It's not funny, really. And I cuss a lot, though. Yeah, again, another one of those things that was probably worse as a kid, but I still cuss a lot. And I'm a dreamer. It's a good thing, I think. But on the negative end of that, I'm a dreamer. I'm not always a good, I would call them mules or worker bees. And that's how the world survives. Don't need many dreamers, but you definitely need people who are willing to work hard. My stepdad was a great example of that. Mule, I would always say, and or bee. He just always was going at it, and he was such a good example in my life as somebody who, even if they don't like their job or whatever it is, they wake up every day, they grind, they put food on the table, shelter over our heads, And we didn't get along. We had a lot of beef growing up, but it's one thing I always admired and respected in him, and still do to this day, that he was, as a man and a provider, he was always really good at that. And I'm a dreamer. I'm always on some crazy side hustle or whatever, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. And but I do work really hard. When I work, I grind, but I just, I'm not one of those guys that can go for years. I got 2 or 3 years max at a job I hate, and then I gotta go, man. I start to lose my mind. And that guy grinds for years, decades at jobs he hates. And he's got in it, but he's locked into one field. Because I've studied scripture more, and that was really what I wanted to focus on. I've worked in lots of different fields, so it's been, I guess, easier for me. But that poor guy, man, he's a grinder, and I've always admired that. It's a very masculine, very strong trait. And a very parenting trait, I think, feminine too, of just going to the grind every day, put food on the table, and so it's crucial. I love God very much. That's one of my strengths. I really love the divine, the Most High, I like to call it. The downside of that, I love to talk about it all the time. Doesn't go over well at my jobs. Unless I'm with people, a few people will be into it. A lot of people are just like, dude, please spare me the God stuff. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I don't care what the Midrash says. I don't care about any of this stuff. I'm just trying to get through my day. And another thing, I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but I love this stuff. So I love hearing your comments. I love hearing people have some discourse in this, and I love being around people that are into this stuff, because it's consumes me. It's a consuming fire inside of me, and I love it. So for good and bad, I'm a helpful person. I like to help people. Old lady across the street, or woman carrying grocery bags up, whatever it is, I like to be helpful and useful to people. It's one of my good qualities. I don't really know if there's a negative to that. Very punctual, good at being on time. I'd rather leave early and get there 5 minutes early and smoke a cigarette or hang out, mess around on my phone, than be all stressed out and 5 minutes late and trying to rush. So I'm one of those people, I just leave early for everything and get there early. try to relieve stress. It started as just trying not to have as much stress in my life, and it turned into just being punctual to everything. I had a English professor, it was like honors too. It was English, whatever, three like advanced English honors in college, and I had big old dreadlocks and used to wear a big tall tam and dreadlocks in my beard. And he's like, man, if the dreadlocks guy can show up every day 5 minutes early, you guys can get here on time. Yelling about people showing up late in his class or whatever. So I've always been pretty punctual in my adult years, and I think it's respect to time. People's time is something to respect. So I've always loved my girlfriends deeply and been faithful to them. So I love monogamy. I'm serial monogamist for sure. I think long-term relationships are the best of everything. We talked about it in like Are We Cowards videos. People kind of just gave up on love, and hooking up is easy, but like really sticking it out and loving people and seeing the real them and really bonding, that's the good stuff. And it hurts so much more when you lose it, but it's really good stuff. But I have trust issues, and I always wondered if, because I'm always faithful and don't cheat, do I want to? Because I have temptations, and like any normal person, and there's been times where, like, you know, beautiful girls chatting it up, and like, do I want to cheat? Am I tempted to cheat? Yeah, like, I'm definitely tempted. And so am I projecting that? Or am I sensing something in them that makes me not trust them? And I've debated this for a long time. I don't know the answer. Looking at society the way it is now, with everybody just cheating and being crazy, maybe I'm not so off in what I was feeling in my partners sometimes, or in people I dated, you know, short term. But I do have trust issues. Not perfect, but I do love really deeply too, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm faithful. I don't cheat. Haven't cheated. Don't cheat. And I'm intelligent. I tested high as a kid. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. I put it on my good list, but I also overthink things. On the negative side of that, I overthink things and tend to not really always act. I'll think too much and not always put it into action, which kind of a downside of all that. I'm really big. We talked about, like, at work, so building people up. I'm really big on positive words. We talked about it in the blessings video of trying to build people up at work. I can sometimes be harsh, especially in my personal life. I'm a little bit of that Chef Ramsay, like, coaches. I played a lot of sports, so I'll break people down a little bit to try to build them up, like break down old barriers I see as barriers, but I can be a little blunt. And so I really love building people up, and I feel every girlfriend I've dated left a better person, like a more spiritual, better person. Like, we grew together. It's definitely them changing it, but like, I have that influence on people where I want to be the best of myself, and I think people around me start vibing on that. And I had the longest relationship I had, almost 10 years. Say it was like a knight's code I live by. She's like, it took me like 2 years to believe this is who you are all the time. But she went from more or less, like, I don't know, atheist, and felt there was something out there, but was just against most spirituality, to being really spiritual and powerful person. She was really powerful to begin with. So I try to be a positive influence, but I can be a little blunt, and it can hurt people's feelings sometimes. I'm creative. I have a lot of creative talents. I flow. I do a bunch of weird stuff. I'm into all kinds of different stuff, but sometimes I use my creativity to maybe get out of things, like avoid things. Like, oh, I'm busy with this creative endeavor, I can't do this, or like, I don't know, I can use it maybe to get out of stuff. I don't know. The downside to that is a little shaky, but I try to, anywhere I feel any kind of like work needs to be done, I tried to do it. So I wanted to put that in there. I can be pretty funny. I like to crack jokes. I've taken this kind of serious, but I've put a few in the comments that, like one especially, I ended up removing because I just thought it was a little too much. But I can be offensive sometimes, depending on my mood. I can be a little offensive, a little crude. I don't know. It's goofy. It's all how it's humor too. Humor's so subjective, right? We live in a society now, especially where people get so easily offended that I remember with that 9-year girlfriend, we had a couple roommates. We rented this big, like 3-4 bedroom big place where we had like an office and a spare room, and so it was like two couples, and we watched the movies together. And the first movie we picked, and she and I were just cracking up, loving it, and they just were deadpan the whole time. They didn't think the movie was very funny, and then they chose a movie, and it was like the opposite. They were cracking up, and we were both like not really feeling it. So humor is that way. It's so subjective. So sometimes, people around me were all cracking up. People can find offensive, so it's kind of downside to humor, I think. And then these are literally good and bad in the same. So where those, I try to find a balancing force of where like this can be bad. These, I would say, and this is part of doing your honest inventory if you're doing it yourself, there's qualities that are both good or bad, and you have to know when to use it for it to be good or bad. So like for the first one, I put easygoing. It's great. It's nice to be mellow and pretty easygoing guy for the most part, but being easygoing also, is not always cracking the whip on myself, or like making sure I'm getting everything done all the time and driving myself as hard as I can be. So easygoing is both a positive trait and a negative trait in my experience. I put like making love, kind of horny, I guess, and girls love that. Like it's in a monogamous relationship, it's very much a bonding thing, but also it can be like another thing you're not getting other things done with, or like if you're not in a really, it should be marriage technically. I mean, we're not living that age as much anymore. I'm really awesome, proud, or like respect people who can do that, and honestly I hope my daughter does. And I think younger is better to get married, honestly. I think everyone's just old and bitter. I think you're still innocent and you still love when you're young and before we get all jaded. I think kids get jaded even earlier now with the internet and everything, but you can also just spend time in bed with your girl, and also another one of those things where you're not maybe getting as much done as you needed to build up your life, and so it can have double-edged sword. It's a good and a bad thing. I don't care about material things very much, which I mentioned earlier, but it's a good and a bad thing. It's you need them in the world. It's simple as that. And so it's great that I'm not super like material driven. I feel like there's enough people after that in the world. There's so many people that are playing this game of and that is actually the other next one is like, I won't play the game. People are obsessed with acquiring things and wealth and status and this game that everybody wants to play. And I don't care for any of it. I want enough to survive, and now with a child, I want enough to be able to buy her nice things and take her places and provide for her and make sure she's okay. But I'm not like particularly driven. I don't care about flashy cars or houses, and very much different. When I was 10, I wanted a job that was $200,000 out of college, and a mansion and a Ferrari and a trophy wife. At 10, how twisted our minds get so young to want a trophy wife, especially. And, I just knew I was supposed to have those things. And the Ferrari and the mansion and the trophy wife and whatever, the high-paying job. And so I kind of tried to go the opposite and become a minimalist. And I'm not, and I'm really not consumed by material things, and I don't care to play the game to earn them. And I applaud those who do it and are successful at it. And hey, great, if that's happy with your life. I just don't feel like selling my time. So it's a good and a bad thing. You know, I probably could have acquired. And at the time, I made a lot of money in my life actually, and times I've just barely scraped by. You know, and I'm pretty happy with either. You know, I'm in making more money than I needed. I was like hiding money in places in my house and had more money than I need. It's just be able to go to the market and buy everything that I need. If I toilet paper, toothpaste, dish soap, deodorant, blah blah blah, those little things that all come up at once. I can go. I don't have to think about it. That's enough for me. I'm happy with that. So, I don't need to be a whole lot richer than that. I can pay my rent and have all the supplies I need. I'm pretty happy. I had all like surfboards, skateboards, bike, all the sports equipment I want. I'm good. So, and things change with the daughter now. You know, I need more and more. So it's motivated me. But two good things. I love nature, and I love nature. And those are both good and bad. Like I love being in nature more than just about anything. At the beach, especially in the mountains, like rivers. But I also want to be in nature all the time. So I'm in the city too much. I go crazy, and I much rather just be out there on my own doing my thing. And so it's takes away from my life, I think, or like my yearning for it sometimes isn't good. You know, I thought about park ranger. I had a buddy decades ago be like, dude, just go be a park ranger. And so I still think about it sometimes, but it's might be a good job. But I'm also, it's kind of like where I worship the divine. So it's always been weird to me of monetizing how I worship, sort of. Makes sense? So that, and then the last one is honest. I'm maybe too honest, pretty brutal. I used to lie about everything as a little kid. When I was a little kid, I learned it from my family and just people around me. Everybody has these white lies, and I got super militant about it. I would like, anytime someone brought up a lie, not knowing it was a lie, I would call myself out on the lie and be like, you know what, I lied about that. And I would think everyone would be like, what? One time it happened. The very first time I got all militant about not lying, somebody called me out on it and I dealt with it. And then after that, I would just, anytime like a lie I told came up, I would just call myself out on it. And I never got called out again. Like nobody ever was like, what the fuck? So honesty is a great thing, but also, you know, they say in like the Talmud, you can lie for the sake of peace. There is times like, you know, your girlfriend says, do I look good in this? You could probably lie. I don't. That's a problem. And so on one end, like my mom always appreciates me when she's cooking something because she, you know, she give it to my pops or whatever, and he's like, oh, it's delicious, right? He's always, no matter what. And she likes to experiment with recipes when she gets in her cooking moods, which are rare, but she'll get into these little cooking moods sometimes. I just tell her what it is, but she would always be like, well, I'm going to get to try it when I'm over there, or whatever, the rare times I'm over there. I'm going to get to try it, and he'll tell me the real truth. And so I'm like, it's good, or it's great, or it's junk, like this is terrible. And I'm just honest about it. And so she knows she can trust my opinion. So there's that upside to it and a downside of like, you know, this is gross. And it bums her out a little bit. But at least she knows. Like she got an honest opinion. And same with relationships. Do I look good in this? Nah, not so much. She's got to go change. Or whatever it is, you know. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. So that's basically a list of honest inventory. Our strengths. kind of corresponding weaknesses, I think, because every strength has a corresponding weakness, right? That's how balance works. But not all. And some things are both a strength and a weakness. So if anyone wants to know how to do an honest inventory list, and just to sit and meditate, when I spoke before Explore Your Dream Life, when we spoke, is you can just sit and meditate, put on music or sit in silence, especially in nature, great place, go plop down on a rock or put a blanket down somewhere and just sit and think. And it doesn't have to be like Zen meditation where you empty your mind, but rather in Judaism, you fill your mind with a concept. So you can, the oneness of God, the word echad, or yachad, in Hine Matovu Menayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, you can fill your mind. In Judaism, more meditation is more filling your mind with a concept and meditating on it, and it's all the possibilities of what it could mean and that kind of stuff. So it's very much the same. You can sit and meditate and think about qualities you want to work on, qualities that you are strong in and you want to keep strong, keep going in. And don't be afraid to question where you're weak and where you're strong, because we're human beings and we can never improve until we acknowledge both sides of the coin, the weak and the strong. And I put it all out there pretty much, and anyone knows me knows this is pretty much who I am, and I have my own sins to atone for, that I had to overcome, or like my shortcomings. I have my own strengths and I have my own weaknesses, and I always equate it. Girlfriends, certain ones, would have a lot of problem with some of this stuff, like when I talk about honest inventory. And I think acknowledging your weak things, it's like being on a team. I think for guys, if it is any easier, I don't know, I think it's all specific to people more than gender, but it's like being on a team and knowing, you want to know, instead of being fake with each other, you want to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, so you know how to play together, to be on the team together, because that's really what relationships are. And so instead of lying to your mate, be real with them about this relationship and where you're strong and where you're weak. Don't try to front to be all these things, because it's the same like if you're on 2-on-2 basketball team, right? And if you don't know your partner's weak with their left hand, they always like, oh yeah, pass it. No, I'm good. I'll dribble in with my left. I'll dribble. And they suck with their left hand. You have to learn it the hard way. So you keep passing them to where they can dribble in on their left, and then they keep losing the ball or whatever, or taking terrible shots or whatever. And you give up a bunch of opportunities where you could be getting points. You're giving up these opportunities because they're weak on their left hand, but they're unwilling to acknowledge it. And so if you know that, you're going to put them in opportunities where they go with their right, because you understand this. And that's where it's really important, honest inventory in relationships, is that it's not to put you down or make you feel less. It doesn't mean you could still be the best three-point shooter in the world and maybe just don't dribble so well with your left. That doesn't make you a bad player. It just shows where you're strong and where you're weak. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We're trying to win together, right? That's what really matters. That's what a relationship's about. So by telling me I'm not trying to put you down, or I'm not going to think less of you if you don't dribble, because I know you're a badass three-point shooter. And I don't care that if I need to give it to you on your right side to put up those threes and score rather than your left side, because that's what I'll do. I'll make it work so that, if I can dribble with both hands, I'm going to get into a position to make sure I give it to you on the right side so you can put up that three and win us the game, right? That's more how I see it. So it's okay. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your partner so that you guys can win together. And it's not to put you down. It's just to acknowledge where you need to work on skills and where you're strong. So that's it. That's honest inventory. Thank you all. I wish you guys the blessing of being strong enough to acknowledge where and know, and humble enough to know where you're great, and to be strong enough to acknowledge where you need to work and put in the work to better yourself, because we can only change ourselves, in the end. And we can offer help and words of wisdom and advice to our fellow human beings as they change themselves, hopefully to inspire them. But in the end, the change is all up to us. So, and we can only really change ourselves. So big ups to that. Big ups to Explore Your Dream Life. Great conversation, though short. It was beautiful. And thank you to everybody. Is there any time you've done a honest inventory and it's helped, or did you ever go through not telling your partner where you were weak and it bit you in the butt, or vice versa? They didn't tell you where they were weak and it kind of bit you guys as a relationship? Or any kind of questions, comments, let me know. Love to hear it. Thank you all, and remember, let us do this. Save the humans.
Trying to be a better man. Oh yeah. Trying to do the best I can. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna do right thing. Do right thing. No matter what they want to say. And I'm gonna still fight for you. Still fight for you.